So 250 years ago, right now, the revolution was well underway. The American Revolution had been started. The Continental Congress was meeting in this building, Independence Hall. And one thing I've been doing every day is just checking letters that the Founding Fathers wrote back and forth to each other. So I figured I'd check today and see if I find anything interesting and share it with you. I've got my laptop right here. So I'm gonna be looking down and checking for letters. Okay, for July 13th, 1775, we have 3 documents: general orders to George Washington from Jonathan Trumbull, and from George Washington to Jonathan Trumbull, Sr. Sorry, to George Washington from Jonathan Trumbull, Sr. That's the name of both letters. Interesting. Okay, let's start with general orders. July 13, 1775. General orders. Pearl, Georgia. As the army will be forthwith formed into brigades, the adjutant general will at orderly time this day deliver to the adjutant of each regiment a number of printed returns, one of which must be immediately filled up and signed by the commanding officer of each regiment as soon as possible to the adjutant general. By the adjutant of each regiment, on the back of the return, it will be necessary to mention where and in what manner the regiment is at present posted. The commanding officer at Chelsea is as soon as possible after the receipt of this order to direct all the cattle up Pulling Point, Shirley Point, and the intermediate space between Powderhorn Hill and the sea to be driven off. And it is recommended to the Commissary General to endeavor to agree with the owners of the said cattle and to purchase them for the use of the army. Footnote number 1. For George Washington's reorganization of the army into divisions and brigades, see General Orders, 22nd of July. All right, we'll get to that. Footnote number 2. Joseph Reed conveyed this order to the officer commanding at Chelsea in the letter of this date. 4 companies from Colonel Samuel Garish's regiment were stationed at or near Chelsea to defend the coast. Lieutenant Colonel Laumie Baldwin assumed command at Chelsea by 28th of July, but Richard Dodge, captain of one of the 4 companies, was apparently acting as commander there at this time. On 14th of July, Dodge sent to George Washington a return of the livestock, quote, brought by Poulin's Pint and Pint Shirley, 80 horn crouters, 883 sheep, end quote. Poulin Point, now part of the town of Winthrop, and Point Shirley flank Boston Harbor on the north. Powderhorn Hill is on the north side of Chelsea. The Commissary General of the Massachusetts forces was John Pigeon. No Continental Commissary General was appointed until 31st of July. Let's look at to George Washington from Jonathan Trumbull, Sr., 13th July 1775, Lebanon. Okay. Sir, suffer me to join in congratulating you on your appointment to be General and Commander-in-Chief of the troops raised or to be raised for the defense of American liberty. Men who have tasted of freedom and who have felt their personal rights are not easily taught to bear the encroachments on either, or brought to submit to oppression. Virtue ought always to be made the object of government. Justice is firm and permanent. His Majesty's ministers have artfully induced the Parliament to join in their measures to prosecute the dangerous and increasing difference between Great Britain and these colonies with rigor and military force, whereby the latter are driven to an absolute necessity to defend their rights and properties by raising forces for their security. The Honorable Congress have proclaimed a fast to be observed by the inhabitants of all the English colonies on this continent, to stand before the Lord in one day, with public humiliation, fasting and prayer, to deplore our many sins, to offer up our joint supplications to God for forgiveness, and for his merciful interposition for us in this day of unnatural darkness and distress. They have, with one united voice, appointed you in the high station you possess. The supreme director of all events hath caused a wonderful union of hearts and counsels to subsist amongst us. Now, therefore, be strong and very courageous. May the God of the armies of Israel shower down the blessings of his divine providence on you, give you wisdom and fortitude, cover your head in the day of battle and danger, add success, convince our enemies of their mistaken measures, and that all their attempts to deprive these colonies of their inestimable constitutional rights and liberties are injurious and vain. I am with great esteem and regard, Sir, your most obedient, humble servant, Jonathan Trumbull. Explanation. Jonathan Trumbull, Sr., of Lebanon, Connecticut, with the only colonial governor to side with the Patriots, served as Connecticut's chief executive from 1769 to 1784. The religious tone of this letter stems from his preparation for the ministry of a young man. The death of an elder brother kept him from the pulpit because he felt obliged to replace that brother as his father's business associate. Knowledgeable in the ways of commerce and politics as well as theology, Trumbull successfully managed the flow of food, clothing, and munitions to the Continental Army from his colony throughout the war. Despite occasional misunderstandings, George Washington and Trumbull established a close working relationship with one another, and George Washington came to hold the governor in great esteem. 3 of Governor Trumbull's sons also served with distinction in the Revolution. Joseph Trumbull became the first Commissary General of the Continental Army on 31st of July, 1775. Jonathan Trumbull Jr. was Continental Paymaster General for the Northern Department from 1775 to 1778, Comptroller of the Treasury from 1778 to 1779, and George Washington's Military Secretary from 1781 to 1783. John Trumbull, an artist, acted as an aide-de-camp to George Washington between 27th of July and 15th of August 1775, and later served as a brigade major and as a deputy adjutant general. First footnote. Footnote number 1. On 12th of June 1775, the Continental Congress recommended 20th of July, quote, as a day of public humiliation, fasting, and prayer. We read that document, so you can go to the video from 12th of June 1775 and learn more. Okay, and here is the second letter to George Washington from Jonathan Trumbull Sr. on the 13th of July, 1775. I don't know why there are 2 letters. I'm not sure about that, why there would be 2, but here they are. So here's the second letter. Sir, I have to observe to your excellency that the Honorable Congress have altered the arrangement of the generals appointed by our assembly. Wish the order we adopted had been pursued. Fear Generals Worcester and Spencer will think they have reason to complain. They are gentlemen held in high estimation by our assembly and by the officers and troops under their command. There are reasons to fear that inconveniences will arise from the alterations made by the Congress in the rank and station of those generals. At the same time, they have the highest sense of General Putnam's singular merit and services. Is it impracticable to devise some method to obviate the difficulties that are apprehended? The army before Boston is necessarily thrown into 2 grand divisions. General Spencer, with a number of our troops, hath hitherto been at Roxbury, and General Putnam at Cambridge. That destination continued and observed may prevent uneasy competition, preserve good order, and promote the public service. I am with great truth and regard, sir, your obedient humble servant, Jonathan Trumbull. For footnote number 1, for a discussion of the dispute over the precedence of the general officers from Connecticut, see George Washington to Hancock, 10th to 11th July 1775. I think we read that one. You can go 2 videos, maybe 3 videos back and read it. Okay, those are the letters from July 13th, 1775. If you enjoyed this, please give a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.